So take me through like the project. How was it conceived? And I think the main thing is quite interested to know, the story of the development. Like what changed? How did you arrive at what is in it and what is not in it? Do you know what I mean? So how's the story go?
Well, so it started about 2 years ago. 2 years ago when we wanted to kind of refresh the MiniBrute. It's a great instrument, but many other people started doing analog monosynth, and we wanted to kind of improve on that concept. We knew the Matrix Brute was coming in a completely different approach, but we wanted something to keep in this kind of price range and this kind of product. So I started working on that. Initially it was really a MiniBrute Plus, with a bit more. From the start, I wanted to make it closer to the modular and cable patching world. So it was.
So you are a modular person as well.
I am a bit. I'm not as addicted as you, but I like it.
Yeah, I like of course.
it. So I started just ask the electrical engineers on what can easily be open to external patching. I saw some of what Iser did with HackerBrute, where already some of the patches were available. So kind of started from there. And so it became a kind of a MiniBrute Plus with a bunch of CV control. And the feedback from you and from other guys in the company was it's not enough. It won't drastically change the perception that people have of the
So
MiniBrute.
at that point it didn't have two oscillators, did it?
No, it didn't have two oscillators. It still had kind of this remotely the same feature set as the MiniBrute.
Yeah.
One of the constraints I had at the time was to keep the price similar to MiniBrute, which we changed ultimately, but initially wanted to
keep it. It is a little bit more than a MiniBrute, but I think it gives you a lot more than a MiniBrute. Yeah. And I think people forget, like the MiniBrute literally was the synth that brought the new price range to synths. Isn't it funny now how like that everyone's attitude to the cost of a monosynth has changed quite significantly? Like we all have crazy demands in terms of what we expect for the money these days. So I imagine from a designer standpoint, it's a challenge basically to make sure you don't put too much in and make it too expensive.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's easy to do like you did before. It's more difficult to find like in analog design to find where to put the innovation, where to put the effort, where to put the money, so that in the end you have something that is conceptually different to what you would find from other competitors or even from instruments that we did in the past. So it's a challenge. It's fun.
So basically your original plan was that you wanted a modular MiniBrute, but then so how does it evolve? How did it become its final?
Well, the feedback I had was you need something new. You need to bring something that is not what is already in the MiniBrute and MicroBrute, so I started with adding a second oscillator. The AD envelope was here almost from the start because I love the make noise math and I love CV control on envelope times. I feel like this is one of the most interesting aspects. Audio rate modulations and CV control on envelope times is really what I like.
Basically the first thing I did was just take both LFOs to both the attack and decay and just let it flip-flop around. Yeah,
that's right.
Wicked. It's
one great patch, yeah. So that was one point, and also there was this time where I showed a prototype to you, to Glenn, who was product manager at Arturia, and to other people, and really the reaction was like meh, which frustrated me. I really wanted people to enjoy that new instrument, so I stayed up late, maybe very late that night, and did all the sequencer version, at least the early concept of taking out the keyboard, replacing with what I knew was good from the Keystep Pro, so an array of pads, knobs, and kind of took this idea of, I want to be able to generate more envelopes, more LFOs, so kind of the custom tracks idea came from the start. And so that became the sequencer version. At that point, I didn't expect that we would finish with the two of them. I just wanted to offer an option to, so this is another thing that to me would appeal more to this Eurorack community or to this modular community, because we use sequencers more than keyboards.
I thought it was a really nice touch. It took me a while to get my head around the kind of mod 1 and 2 and quite how it works. As soon as it clicked, my only thought with it is it's like, I wonder which one to get. You know, it's like, do I get the keyboard version because it's got the kind of key layout, the keystep, you know, sequencer built in. It's kind of, I don't know how you feel that, how that decision will go. Do you know, as I mean, will we sell an equal number of like each, or will people go?
We can't tell.
They're quite different.
I've never heard anyone say that one of them doesn't make sense. You know, it's always in like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna sell 60% of the sequencer, 40% of the keyboard. Sometimes it's the opposite. There's kind of a difference between the US market, where people see the keyboard version as a better option, and the European market, where the sequencer seems more appreciated. But those are just estimates for now, because
is it, you can plug a keyboard into the sequencer version, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
And then can you effectively just use it like a Keystep in that way? Because you can kind of overdub the sequence, can't you?
Well, the things that's missing from the Keystep approach is the SH101 type of recording, where you enter events one after the other. That's something that is still not in the sequencer version. Maybe it will come in the future, but for now we don't have it.
So tell me a little bit about, with MiniBrute 2, I remember I messaged you after they came into the office. I'm like playing around with these things, because I remember trying it at HQ and stuff, and it sounded great. And then when I heard the final version, I was struck by how it sounds so different. Like, it's not the sound of the MiniBrute, which is interesting. So like, could you talk a bit about behind the scenes, what has actually changed in terms of like the mixing section, the design of the oscillators and so on?
It's kind of the same approach we had to have with the Matrix Brute, that when you have only one oscillator, if you distort a single note, you have kind of that control tone. It's a different tone, it's shaped, but it's still a control tone. The MiniBrute and MicroBrute kind of distort a lot once you start raising the amplitude faders of the waveforms.
Yeah.
But this one, because you could have two oscillators and FM and everything, we had to be a lot more careful on the gain staging, because the first prototype
more headroom.
Give it more headroom in the VCA especially, because otherwise it gives kind of this harsh, uncontrollable tones unless you kept everything very low, and that's not the way we want people to manipulate.
Yeah, I think most folks, when they get the MiniBrute, you just flip the oscillator, you flip the faders right to the top.
Which I guess that's how I expect it to work, you know.
Yeah.
So we made sure that when you raise it to the top, it still gives you a usable tone. And then you still have the brute factor to add more punch or stuff like that.
I just felt like it sounds, I'm trying to find the words to describe it, but it just sounds like classy, like there's a classier kind of tone. I think maybe because it isn't driving so easily, but also like the filter, even though, is it exactly the same design as in?
It's very close. It's still the Steiner Parker 12 dB.
But like, for example, it doesn't. I couldn't seem to get it to do that thing. You know, when you have quite high resonance with the Steiner Parker, it sort of goes like and starts to like waver, like when it hits a certain point. It seems more stable in that way.
You can still get that. You can still get that, but probably not as easily, or at least because it doesn't distort afterwards, you don't have that kind of two tones battling against each other in the distortion. That's more what you know, the difference, because you still get, if you pay attention to it, you get those ringing tones of like harmonics fighting against the self-oscillation of the filter. Same on the Matrix Brute actually. It's a lot. The MiniBrute 2 filter is a lot closer to the Matrix Brute. In that regard.
It's just got this kind of classy sort of vibe. It's interesting.
Another part of the classy aspect, I would say, is that the Metalizer, which is kind of a characteristic sound of the MiniBrute, I would say, and all of the Brute range, was, I won't say toned down, but changed.
Like the actual timbre of it has changed.
We had to change it to have easier CV control on it. I wanted to CV control to control both the mix of triangle and folded waveform and the amount of folding, so that even when the Metalizer is at 0, you could still get these sounds of a Metalizer to triangle. So we changed it a bit, and ultimately decided to keep it toned down compared to what we could do with the other.
It's still quite a profound sound. Like it's not. But it almost sounds more vocal somehow.
It may be a bit closer to what you would find on a music easel.
Yeah, it's nice. And I also love the fact that you've got an external input, effectively, that you can use it as an external wave folder. I did play around a little bit. Played around a little bit with wave folding in the LFOs as well, because you can just fold any signal. It's interesting.
It folds. It doesn't fold constant signals. We had to keep it AC coupled because otherwise any offset, once you start raising the gain, just messes up the whole sound. It doesn't fall the same on the upper and the lower side, and it gives a less interesting tone. So we had to make it use only with alternative signals, but with fast LFOs too, rather slow LFOs, you still get some interesting tone. With envelopes, it's nice as well.
The only other thing is, it's interesting that there isn't an external input on it. Like, at least, am I right? Like, you can't put like a line level signal into it.
Has to be a powerful line signal.
Yeah.
There is a slight gain. It's not just maximum. It's just attenuation. But as with everything, because we wanted it to be Eurorack compatible before anything else, we expect 10 volt peak signals. So if you have a powerful line signal, you can do something. But
you could
don't expect to plug a guitar in. For
instance.
Well,
I like when I played around with the drum brute, I just stuck it through like the dub for A119 and then brought it up to modular level. But it just was interesting. It really is designed for Euro rackers, especially, which is that's great because it is what most people are doing. I think I remember like when I put them all together, the case and the keyboard. It's just like, there are other Eurorack case systems. That may be true, but there is something really, really nice about the way that they just lock together in the sense that you really get the feeling that you've built an instrument. And I think. I hope it will give focus to people building Eurorack systems. I think it's quite easy to get kind of carried away, and like it's just a really good springboard, and it makes this really nice unified instrument. I don't know from your side what your, what do you see people? How do you see the whole thing developing in terms of the involvement of Eurorack in your products? Do you see? I was going to almost ask you, like, are you working on Eurorack modules? Because that feels like the obvious thing to do, but I don't know if you can, but you maybe can't say.
No, I don't know. So right now we're not really focusing on making Eurorack modules. There are many people who are doing great things and really pushing, where the Eurorack community is going, and we still haven't gone that way of let's do all that, I would say, research and prototyping effort to get results,
Actually, I remember the drum brute you prototyped to Eurorack.
We
prototyped like drum brute modules.
We had small modules because it gives you all the power supply and everything, so that you can start matching. But actually making modules and being as innovative as some of the companies we see,
there's just so much out there, isn't there? And I suppose, like, ultimately, what we do maybe need more of is friendly ways to get into Eurorack. Because I think there's just that. There has never been a thing where you can get more paralyzed by like a buying decision than with Eurorack, because you need just some simple options. Someone just make it easy for you. Okay, buy that, then you can get some modules.
To me, it's part of the fun as
well.
You
actually like the pain.
Well, it's not the pain. It's it's part of why you're satisfied in the end. Of you remove all the frustration, and then you get this module, and it's like, it fits well with the rest of my stuff, and I like how it works, and. Get so much content and videos and guys like you spending 30 minutes explaining why a module makes sense, that discovering all the possibilities is part of the fun. I think it's especially hard when you get into it because there's so much and you don't know where to look, and because each element is expensive, it's like I was afraid of making bad decisions, so you tend to go with what everyone else does at the start, and once you have all the, I would say, the basic building blocks, you start really wondering, well, how do you want to use it? Do you want to process external audio? Do you want to make one self-contained voice? Do you want to have 15 voices? Do you want to make a drum machine? And that's where the fun begins of, okay, let's make my own instrument.
I was going to ask you, like, what are your preferred, what would your sort of starter system suggestion be for if you're getting a rack brute and say you've got a mini brute, what would you add to it? I'm only going to slightly jump the gun and say personally, the thing I really wanted to put in the case was drums, because especially with the 2S, when you've got the turning the mod 1 and 2 into gates, it's really nice. I had a kick drum and a snare, and then suddenly you're making whole tunes.
Like with a 3U system. The fact that you can take the VCA output and bring back external input just before the master volume means it's very easy to add send processors. So I would have maybe an Airverb or something like that.
Absolutely.
a bit more utility, probably a bunch of attenuators, maybe a shade, maybe
mutable instrument shades. Yeah.
Sorry, a mixer. I think a mixer. That's something I would probably get because we were constrained by the number of inputs, the number of connections that I could put. So there are some things that were left out by choice.
I think it's the only problem is I worry that a lot of folks don't realise the importance of utilities. Like everyone specs up like a cool digital oscillator or something like that, filters. But yeah, adding actually that's true. I put a mixer in the case as well.
Small mixer, FX, probably some logic, gate handling. I don't know, maybe we only have 2 envelopes, and so maybe something that could take 2 signals, maybe branches, something that kind of stuff.
Fun.
Like how to handle 2 gates and work more with randomness, probability, that kind of stuff. What would I use? I don't know. Maybe another CV controllable LFO, because oscillator 2 can be a CV control LFO, but it's so nice to have 2 oscillators just as oscillators. So another one. And well, personally, I would start with a digital OSC. Because if I imagine myself as I want to get into your rack, I get a MiniBrute 2 because it gives me all the basic blocks of analog oscillator, mixer, filter, and all of that stuff. The basic modulations. Then the kind of sound that I love is things like complex dual OSC, like a DP or something, or a shapeshifter, or something like a localic Interitas, something like that.
The noise engineering stuff is amazing, really gritty and interesting.
Maybe a Basimilis, to kind of bridge between what you're saying with drums
as well. Also with Basimilis Interitas, like if you've got a stepped CV source.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're right, buddy. If you've got a stepped CV source, then which you would have with the Mod 1 and 2, then Basimilis Interitas just loves stepped, so you can push it around from being a bass drum to a snare, and it's a good shout. Like some reverb, actually, spring reverb especially.
Spring reverb, maybe.
I haven't tested.
Actually, the fun thing is that you can consider a lot of things and they would make sense. It's not like, okay, I have the MiniBrute, so I don't need this or this. But, anything would kind of make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, man. Well done.
Thank
Congratulations on your new babies. And we're looking forward to more toys. We're looking forward to getting the Brutes, and obviously they're going to be coming to the UK soon. But more just when they come in, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the kinds of systems people put together, the ways they start using it. So
studio pictures with bright Brutes everywhere.
Exactly. Just 10 rack Brutes in a row.
Maybe.
Why not? Sebastian, thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.